The firms have been nurtured by China's local governments. Industries like solar panels and lithium batteries have become world-leading. But this has resulted in an oversupply of these goods and not enough customers to meet the demand. One example is the car industry. There are now 130 domestic car companies battling for sales. Discounts are so steep that you can buy this electric car, the BYD Seagull, for less than $8,000.
There is no such thing as overproduction of solar panels. Say it with me. There is no such thing as overproduction of solar panels.
If China pollutes, it's the world's worst polluter. If China goes green, it's a threat or an unfair competitor. Welcome to the double standard of Western media. The Economist just published an article titled, "China's Air Quality Improvements Have Hastened Global Warming." Wait, what? When China's economy took off, yes, pollution skyrocketed. Fair enough, the criticism makes sense back then. So China responded, spending $3 trillion over the past decade to clean up its environment. The results? Massive improvement. But now, the same watchdogs claim China's clean air is making the planet warmer? What? Here's another twist. When Western countries accused China of high carbon emissions, China poured another $1 trillion+ into clean energy. And yet, the US and Europe, who together account for 52% of all historical carbon dioxide emissions, still point fingers even after the US withdrew from major emission reduction agreements and blamed green energy for environmental harm. See this pattern? If China pollutes, it's the world's worst polluter. If China goes green, it's a threat or an unfair competitor. Meanwhile, Western nations, still among the top emitters today, rarely face the same level of media outrage when they fall behind or keep burning fossil fuels. Of course, China still has challenges ahead, but look at the framing. It's not about what China does, it's about what China is. So here's a real question. Is this honest criticism or climate justice double standard? What do you think? Drop your thoughts.
Can I comment on this? No. The headline is so telling that any comment I can add will be like drawing a snake and then add legs to it. Nothing I can say will add to it. It tells you all you need to know, the statement. Why don't I just tell you instead the story of drawing a snake adding legs? 画蛇添足. So, long time ago, there's this guy who's really good at drawing, and once he was having a competition with all the people who's good at drawing, and the competition is who can draw a snake as fast as possible and as good as possible. Okay, so he's very good. He finished it. Nobody else has finished. So he's waiting and think, oh, why don't I draw some legs on my snake? So he started to draw legs. And at the end, of course he lost. The snake doesn't look like a snake because he add legs to a snake. So the idiom 画蛇添足, draw snake adding leg, means doing something totally unnecessary. Like, I don't need to comment on this. That tells you the whole story you need to know.
Let's take a look at the so-called evidence they present.
There's no homelessness in China? What about this? Or this? Or this? There's plenty of homeless people in China. They exist.
Well, it may seem true at the first glance. Now let's compare it with the situation of homeless people in the United States. Have you noticed any differences? The difference is that homeless people in the US carry a lot of luggage, have tents, and look unkempt with messy hair and dirty, tattered clothes. But what about the homeless people in China? They carry very little luggage, and their clothes and hair are relatively clean. Why is there such a difference? The answer is that they are not homeless people at all. These people are job seekers who come to big city to work. They have a nickname in Chinese called 三和大神, 三和 gods. 三和 refers to a well-known talent market in Shenzhen. A large number of job seekers go there to find work. Sometimes, when they can't find a job immediately and don't want to rent a hotel to save money in the big city, they will sleep under the eaves of the talent market or in nearby subway stations. But only for a short period of a few days. They will leave once they find a job. That's why most tourists visiting China never see them, because they only gather around the talent market. If you don't believe it, you can search for 三和大神 on Chinese video platforms, and you will find the source of these videos. The videos clearly state that these people are job seekers. We have never tried to hide them. Deliberately taking things out of context and portraying them as homeless people in China is precisely a trick of the CIA. Basically, these people are from rural areas, and they all have free houses in their hometowns. If they are urban residents, their only housing property cannot be auctioned off. Even if urban residents voluntarily sell their only housing property, they can apply to the government for low-rent housing that is almost free.
I'm Chinese, and whoever says there are no homeless people in China, that's not true. But our homeless people are a bit different from those in the US. First, in China, they are usually not dangerous. We don't see them as people who may steal or commit crimes, because public safety here is very good. Second, in every neighborhood, there are police officers who regularly check the street. When they find homeless people, they send them to temperature shuttles. These shuttles provide a bed, food, and safety places to stay later. The police contact the family and help them to reunite or find volunteers to help them get jobs. So that's the real life of homeless people in China. That's also why so many people online say there are no homeless in China, not because they don't exist, but because of they already take care of this. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you so much. Good blessing for you. And also welcome to follow me, the real Chinese man. Yeah, thank you, the Chinese friends.
Dude, China has credit score. Okay, yeah, we have credit score, but not social credit score. Type 1 if you want to know social credit score. But first of all, we don't have social credit score, guys. We don't have that. We have credit score. We just try to establish in 2018. We try to follow the credit score in America. When you try to apply for mortgage, when you try to make a loan, they will check your background, right? The credit score. That makes sense. The credit score will be related to your personal spending. For example, if you have like bad credit score, you own the bank like a 2 million RMB, 300,000 US dollars. You are not allowed to overspending. For example, buying the luxury stuff, because you got the money, you have to pay back to the bank, right? And you are not allowed to do the public transportation like a bullet train. I just do my research, guys. You can go on the bullet train, but you cannot take the first class. So you cannot have the luxury in your life until you pay back your money. Why there is social credit score? Rumors, okay? First rumor comes out from the immigration court. For Chinese people come to America, there's like a legal way and illegal way. So legal way is either you do the investment immigration, and the other way is to go study and find a job and stay there, a student visa, and then transfer that into the immigration, a green card. There's another illegal way to go to America. We call it illegal immigrants, right? You basically just like pay the coyote at the border of America, Mexico, welcome KSR. So you pay them to get in. Sometimes the entrance fee starting with 50,000 US dollars. So when you enter the States as an illegal immigrants, what you gonna do now? You need to find some job in this kind of restaurant, and then you have to go to the court. You have to give the reason why you come to America illegally. You have to have the clear reason, otherwise they will send you back to China, right? So lots of people will come up different kinds of reasons. For the people try to stay there, you also have different kind of narrative you can tell about to the court. First, you got this problem with a political issue, so you're like a political refugee. You cannot go back to China, right? That's one reason. You can tell to the court, and you get a protection from the court. Some of them, okay, they will take the loan from the bank. How are they going to pay the coyote? They took the loan from the bank, 500,000 RMB, 1,000,000 RMB, and they pay to the coyote. And they find that they bring the money to the border. Lots of people lost their life at the border also. So what happened after that? They own the money to the bank, right? So some of them, they will tell the court they own the government money. They own the bank the money. They cannot go back. So they will give this kind of reason, right? But most of them, they cannot even speak English. So the lawyer and also the reporter from CNN, NBC, they will try to mix it up. They will talk about, look, this is the guy come from China because in China, they have social credit score. If you talk bad about the government, you will get arrested. And if you have that kind of low score, you will be sentenced to the jail. That's the reason why they cannot come back to China. Because they're a political refugee. They also have to trash their own country. You know, they have to talk about, yeah, China have no freedom. You cannot say anything. All those sources are coming from this kind of witness. So there you go. You have your social credit score miss.
It's just in. The US is saying that China cut a lot of corners, not only with AI, but with robotics. As recently, China has announced that they're creating the first ever flying car factory by XPeng. Now, with this comes great announcements that these flying cars will be used and controlled by AI. The US then goes and says that they are cutting corners in order to win the race. This comes right after the announcement of XPeng to one of China's largest manufacturing companies. And also, it's just obvious that US manufacturing has slowed down quite a lot, and they're just finding it very, very difficult to keep up with China tech.
Maybe he just biased because he's Chinese. As a Chinese myself, I'm gonna pile it on. Because I recently visited NVIDIA, their building, and it's not because I saw a lot of Chinese there. Maybe I see 10-20% Chinese most. But what my friends told me, it really surprised me. Because one, he told me that in the key, because a lot of people I saw that they are salespeople probably, but in the engineering department, the key position, majority are Chinese. It's just a fact. And in other similar company as well, the key position are Chinese. Okay, but you might say these are all US company, but think about the reason. The reason is that in the top university in US, when people graduate, the top of the class, they prefer go to Wall Street, go to McKinsey, that kind of job. Engineering is not the first choice. And the fact that a lot of Chinese are filling in is because a lot of them are either immigrant, like H-1B holder, so engineering is like almost the only choice with the language. Also, just traditionally, that comes the advantage of China with US. Because in China, if you go to the top university, the top of the class actually go to engineering. There's no such preference. Maybe because China, the stock market or whatever hasn't catch up, so it's doesn't have that huge difference between people's preference of going to finance versus going to engineering. So the smartest kids are actually going to engineering in China, and that will really make a difference.
Pro-capitalism cucks love to say China's capitalist because it makes capitalism look better than it is, and they've never read China's constitution or any of their 5-year plans. They are available for you to read. Discussing the state of socialism in China is the ultimate display of people talking out of their ass about things they've never read about and don't know about. They think they know better than everyone else. In the last couple days, I've been called a liar for saying China is socialist. I've been called a liar for saying China isn't socialist. China's goal is to achieve full socialism in 25 years after they complete their speed run of the capitalist economic stage. And people say, well, how are they going to enforce that? Well, why don't you go read their 5-year plans? And I guess we'll see in 25 years. And at this point, their economy is working for all of their citizens. They save 30 to 50% of their earnings on average. There's universal home ownership. They've eradicated homelessness. They've lifted 800 million people out of poverty. They have 12,000 miles of high-speed rail. they have retirement at 55. And so you say there's no unions, there's no minimum wage. Well, their entire government is a union. It's a dictatorship of the proletariat. They don't need a minimum wage because their government isn't looking out for other people's class interests. It's looking out for all Chinese citizens. Unions and minimum wages are only required because we have a government in the United States that's subservient to capitalists, not the people. If we didn't have a minimum wage, they would enslave us. Either way, if in 25 years China doesn't transition to full socialism and they make some excuses, we can reevaluate and have a different conversation. But at this point, they'd be executing corrupt politicians and billionaires, so my money's on them transitioning.
America always talks shit about China, but China barely talks about America at all. It's a bit embarrassing, don't you think? You spend all your time hating on someone and they don't even bother to mention you. America gets no shout-outs in China's latest 5-year plan. All China says, obliquely, is a profound shift is taking place in the international balance of power, while America violently loses its shit about the same situation. China continues, breakthroughs are accelerating in the new round of technological revolution and industrial transformation, while America is deindustrializing Europe and trying to defibrillate its own economy with the AI bubble that's about to go heart attack economic explosion. These nations are not the same, and you can see it on the page. China is sticking to its vision, while America is lashing out in a blind rage. In response to America's retardation and Europe's deindustrialization and the whole white empire's disintegration, China's open position is, all this has created positive factors enabling China to make proactive moves in the international arena and shape a favorable external environment. Or as Napoleon said, when your opponent is defeating themselves, don't interrupt. While the white empire is distracted to disintegration with multiple land wars in Asia, China is fighting no one and focused on improving life for its own citizens. This leads to very different outlooks and very different documents. American policy documents are very empire-focused, while China is literally minding their own business. As Chairman Xi said in his notes on the 5-year plan, we must work to strengthen the domestic economy and boost domestic economic flows so as to leverage the stability of the domestic economy as a hedge against uncertainties in the international economy. While America is trying to tax everyone else's economy through tariffs, though Americans end up paying them, China is just trying to develop their own country. What a novel policy. While America is trying to bomb other people's infrastructure to smithereens, China is building, including in other countries. These are very different visions. Of course, China does talk about America indirectly. We all know who they're talking about when they say, we should promote an equal and orderly multipolar world and foster a new type of international relations. And we all know who they're opposing when they say, we must resolutely oppose all hegemonic, high-handed, and bullying acts. However, China does not name names, which for America is a bit embarrassing. The fact is that there is no great power competition this century. There's a great cannibalization of the white empire as America devours Europe and its vassals, and on the other hand, a great liberation of Asia as China, Russia, and Palestine rebel, either violently or silently, as in China's case. They're simply not talking about America at all.
So a French media headline today said, China uses subsidies, coercion, and propaganda to boost birth rates. Bro, you literally do the same thing. France gave cash bonuses, tax cuts, even free daycare, and it's called family support. China gives baby subsidies, and suddenly it's coercion? Your public awareness is our propaganda? And honestly, we don't even get mad at these headlines anymore. They're just funny now. So uncreative, so predictable. Come on, try a little harder. At least make it worthy of your propaganda budget.
You can't produce too much of the device that's going to save our planet from climate catastrophe, the device that creates free energy from the sky. That is one of the most profitable things you could invest your money into purchasing, no matter who you are. The way the media reports on China is just straight up propaganda. These media outlets are owned by the billionaires who tell them, hey, go make it look good to prevent Americans from buying affordable goods, from buying affordable solar panels so that they can get free energy from the sky. I was just in China. Everyone I know, their electricity prices are going down. Here in the United States, our electricity prices are going up. China is producing more solar power, more new solar capacity than the rest of the world combined. 95% of the solar panel supply chain is in China right now. They built more new solar in 1 year than all of Europe or the United States have in their entire existence. And then they're trying to tell Americans that an $8,000 EV those are nice, by the way. The Seagull, the BYDs, those are nice. They have like giant iPads in the front of them and they have all these cool features. They're small, but they're not cramped. Like, those are well-designed, competitive cars. They're trying to convince you that you shouldn't have those. If you have those good products, then it's gonna somehow backfire and be bad in the long run, even though what's bad in the long run is that stupid car payment that you're paying every month to drive that clunker around and fill it full of gas that's polluting your city. This stuff just makes me so mad because there are real people in China who wake up every day and work. They're engineers and they're trying to make the world a better place with renewable energy. And then these propagandists are just like, oh, what if it's too cheap and the oil companies can't make a profit?